when the denominator is 0, solve the related equation, use the values that we found in the previous steps, so when it says here number line into intervals, that means the sign chart. So that's what it means. We're going to be testing these values in the intervals. So we're going to have to be using these values that we figured out in the previous steps for the sign chart. So let's go ahead and do the first example. So we are going to solve for x plus 3 over 2x plus 1 times x minus 1 is less than 0. Okay? So in order to find our zeros, okay, we get our numerator, which is x plus 3, and we set it equal to 0. So I would subtract the 3. So x is going to equal to negative 3. And this one right here will be my 0. Okay, so in this situation, I only have 1 0. But now I need to go ahead and find my undefined values. And my undefined values are going to pop up when my denominator is equal to 0. So these right here are going to be my undefined values. Okay? Or in other words, my vertical asymptotes for this situation, because these are non-removable discontinuities or non-removable discontinuities. So all of these words, guys, they're literally used to describe the same exact thing. So we're going to go ahead and get 2x plus 1 equal it to 0. I'll subtract the 1. 2x is going to equal to negative 1 divided by 2. X is going to equal to a negative 1/2. Okay, and that right there is my undefined value, my discontinuity, my non-removable discontinuity, my undefined value. And so now we get the x minus 1 equal to 0. I add the 1. X is going to equal to positive 1. Okay, so another undefined value. So now it says to use the values that we found in step 1 and 2 to go ahead and create my sign chart. Okay, so I want to go ahead and I want to create my sign chart. Now, what is my sign chart going to include? It's going to include my, you're going to include the zeros and undefined. Okay, which was 1, 2, and 3. So the sign chart, guys, it's a number line. Okay, so you're just going to create a number line, but the 3 values that I want on this number line are going to be these 3 values right here. So I'm going to create a number line. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and place these values. Now, negative 3 is less than negative 1/2, so I'll just put negative 3 right there. Negative 1/2 will be next, and then the next value will be 1. Okay, now I want to know that the negative 3 is my 0, so I'll just put a 0 right there, and then these right here are my undefined, so I'll just do that. So just to let you guys know, create a sign chart with all zeros and undefined values. Okay, and then after that, you're going to go ahead and you're going to use test points to determine the sign in each interval. Okay, so now we need to pick any value, whichever one you want. Remember, you guys can pick any value that you want And you're going to go ahead and plug it in and see if it's going to be what's the word? Positive or negative. There you go. Okay. So let's go ahead and pick a number. Remember, this can be any number that you want. Doesn't have to be the ones I chose. They just have to be less than or greater than. So here, since I have -3, a number that's less than -3 is going to be -4. A number that's greater than -3 but less than a half is going to be -1. And a number that's greater than -1/2 but greater than 1, I'm going to go ahead and say it's 0. And then I have to choose a number that's greater than 1, so I'll go ahead and choose 2. Okay? And so now I have to go ahead and test these by putting them into the original equation. So I'm going to go ahead and have -4 plus 3 over 2 times -4 plus 1 times -4 minus 1. So -4 plus 3, and basically all I did is just replace every single x value here, okay, with the values that I chose over here. So -4 plus 3 is going to be a -1, so I'll just put a negative because I don't care about the numbers. I care about whether the values are positive or negative. So I'll just put a negative there. And then 2 times -4 is going to be -8. -8 plus 1 is going to be -7. So I'll put the negative there because I don't care that it's a 7. I just care that it's negative. And then this parentheses means multiplication, so I put a multiplication dot. -4 minus 1 is -5, so that's a negative. Okay? Now, the negative in the numerator is going to stay as a negative, but the negative times a negative in the denominator becomes a positive. So a negative divided by a positive will be a negative. Okay? So now let's go ahead and do the same thing, but now we're going to do it for the -1. I'm going to choose a different color, so that way they don't mix together. So I'm going to go ahead and have -1 plus 3 over 2 times -1 plus 1 times -1 minus 1. Well, -1 plus 3 will give me a +2, so that's a positive sign on the top. 2 times -1 is -2. -2 plus 1 will still be a negative, so I'll put a negative down there. And now multiply that times a -1 minus 1, that's a -2, so that'll be a negative. But now a negative times a negative will be a positive. So I'll have a positive divided by a positive, which will just be a positive. Okay? Now let's move on to the 0. So I'm going to go ahead and have 0 plus 3 over 2 times 0 plus 1, 0 minus 1. So 0 plus 3 is going to be a positive. 2 times 0, 0 plus 1, that's a positive. And then 0 minus 1, that's a negative. So positive times a negative will be a negative. So a positive divided by a negative is going to be a negative. Okay? And now we have the 2 left. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process again, but now with the 2. Don't know what happened there. So now I'm going to go ahead and get 2 plus 3 over 2 times 2 plus 1 times 2 minus 1. 2 plus 3 is 5. That's a positive 5. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. That's a positive 5. And then 2 minus 1 is a positive. So, and all of these numbers, all of these signs are positives. So my final answer is just going to be positive. Okay, and so now we have to go back to the original problem, right? So if you look at this here, this whole thing right here is my equation. Now, what this is asking for is for values that are less than 0, okay? So anything that is less than 0, okay, is either going to be positive or negative, right? So if this is less than 0, I want my values. I'm going to be looking for the values that are less than 0, right? So here we are looking for values that are less than 0, which means that we want these values to be negative. Okay, now where did I get this from? Okay, I got this from the original problem right here. Okay, so what I want here is I want anything that is going to give me a negative value. So that means that when x is less than -3, it's going to be negative, right? So if I go from left to right, I'm going to start in an arrow and go all the way up to -3. So that means that here I'm going to get negative infinity all the way up to -3. Okay? Now you may be asking, why did I use a parentheses? Well, because the inequality here, right? This inequality, does it have a line underneath it? No, that means that it's not included. So whenever we see inequalities like this, that means no line, right? So like this, that means parentheses. And when we get with equal to inequalities, that means brackets. So that is why I put a parentheses there. And now union, okay, this is positive. So am I going to include the interval from -3 to -0.5? No. Am I going to include the interval of 1 being greater than? No, because that's positive. So the one that I want is from this part right here. Why? Because that right there is negative, meaning it's less than 0. So I'm going to put the union right here, and I'm going to go from -1/2 to +1. And now these both are going to have parentheses because these two values are undefined, meaning they're asymptotes, and asymptotes cannot be included, so therefore you have to use parentheses. And that right there is your answer. Okay? So you